April's going to be a lot of uncertainty. There's max tariff hysteria, people freaking out. There's going to be this global recession, change in the monetary order, all those sorts of things. So I think it's going to be very choppy, a choppy to down month. Obviously, I hope the 76,500 holds. I think it will, but I think we're going to come close to testing that.
So there's a quick excerpt from Arthur Hayes on his latest interview. We'll hear more from Arthur on what's happening in the market and what he expects for the months to come and for 2025. You don't want to miss what he has to say. And with that, what's happening in Crypto Crew? Sean's coming back at you with another cryptocurrency video. Look here, major breaking news. United States Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick says trillions of dollars of factories are going to be built in America. Why is he saying this? Because the tariffs that have went up, that's going to cause all these offshore companies now to come back onshore so they can bypass those tariffs. It's going to bring more jobs into America. This isn't going to happen overnight. That's why this happened early on in Trump's presidency, because he wants to get this in place. It might take 2 to 3 years to get in place, but once it's in place, it'll make the economy that much stronger. So there's short-term pain for long-term gain. And right here, Anthony Pompliano is weighing in. The Federal Reserve may have to make an emergency rate cut soon. Inflation has fallen to the lowest levels since 2020. So right here, you see way back in 2020, we were under 0%. So they have to stimulate the economy before it gets too late. Will we fall off a cliff and come back down to those levels? Right now, inflation has subsided, but look at this response from Jeff Park. The Fed is more likely to cut rates due to the funding liquidity issues rather than because of inflation concerns. Other great myth of the Fed's real job. Pompliano agrees, but also says liquidity issues will play a large factor, but he thinks inflation issue is very important in their analysis. They have brain damage from being behind the curve for the last 5 years and don't want it to repeat, which will hurt their quote unquote legacy. So Trump's been setting all these tariffs, and here's the latest from what's been happening in the country's response to those tariffs. Check this out.
I got a report from the USTR last night that more than 50 countries have reached out to the president to begin a negotiation. But they're doing that because they understand that they bear a lot of the tariff. And so I don't think that you're going to see a big effect on the consumer in the U.S., because I do think that the reason why we have a persistent long-run trade deficit is these people have very inelastic supply. They've been dumping goods into the country in order to create jobs, say, in China.
Negotiations are occurring. So once these tariffs get lifted or everything comes down to 0-0, what do you think is going to happen to markets? They're going to rip to the upside. And at the current time of this recording, Bitcoin is at 81.8, has fallen down below 82,000. We're still in this downtrend, but we had this bullish divergence. We showed you this on the charts. And right now we have some levels to pay attention to in the short to midterm. This is the daily chart. The level where we're at right now, 81.6. Will we come back and retest this upwards resistance line? And that's down to like 78. We could just sort of double bottom out of this. It would look something similar to this here. If we come up, come back down, put in a higher low, break this resistance, flip it to support before having a continuation to the upside. Could that be what we see? And if we look back in the charts, we can see that we have respected this support line quite a few times. So will we come back down to actually test this over the next week? They're calling for, a crazy Monday when the market opens. We got to see. There's going to be a lot of volatility, but we got to see what Bitcoin does, how well it holds up, what the S&P does. Look at the RSI below. We bottomed out, stair-stepped our way up, and this seemed to have the trend reversing, but the orange line's the level we want to pay attention to. Once we get back above that, markets will definitely flip bullish. Right now, we came down, actually retested the orange line, got rejected, fell through the upwards yellow line, and retested it and got rejected again. So will we see this come down to lower levels, come back to test this level here, this upwards support line, before ultimately getting back above this 50 line and breaking this downtrend? You be the judge. Luca is weighing in, and he's showing this chart. This is a massive, massive cup and handle pattern that has been forming over the 2022 to present day bear market. Now, we had some bull run in this. As you see, this is all uptrend. It's an inverted cup and handle. This is an inverse chart. And you see right now, present day, inverted chart, came back and retested this. So broke out, came back, flipped resistance to support, and now blast off. It looks like we're falling through resistance and now retesting it and running into resistance. But look at this is an inverted chart. So make it make sense. But we plotted this out for you. We inverted the chart. And what you could even say is, you look at this. This is a textbook head and shoulders pattern. You could look at this as a huge cup like he was looking at. And this is the handle here, the back test. And then we came blasted through this. Now we're just flipping this to resistance before we have a continuation to the upside. Where will this technical target take us up to? We pull this from the lowest point of the cup. We're going to just measure by the candle bodies, not the wicks. And we pull this down, and we're going to pull this to where we broke out. Where would this take us up to? We would see a Bitcoin target for roughly $320,000. That's a 4x from where we are right now. Could this happen? Is this realistic? Yes, this definitely could happen. We pull out our fib extensions. We see the 1.618 at the 138. So that would take us all the way to 2.272, roughly. Will this be what we see? Definitely seems bullish. And you can even look at this on Bitcoin versus the SPX. So the S&P, you see Bitcoin is about to substantially outpace the S&P. Why? Because this is a not inverted chart, normal chart, but you see a shoulder, a head, another shoulder, and we broke out of this back test, and now we're just getting ready to make new all-time highs with the targets up to roughly 46. It doesn't mean too much, but right now we're at 16. This is the Bitcoin price divided by the SPX. So what we're looking at, Bitcoin outpacing the entire S&P roughly almost 200% when this peaks out. So definitely more bullishness to come. So let's finish hearing from Arthur Hayes and see what he's talking about for the short term to midterm, but also, are we going to see 250,000 before the end of the year? Let's hear from Arthur.
I think Bitcoin's going to perform more like gold, but it's going to take a while for the market to sort of ditch this correlation between the NASDAQ and Bitcoin. You have taxes being paid by persons in the United States coming up on April 15th. That's a liquidity negative event because people have to sell things to pay their taxes. You have the debt ceiling in the US. It's unclear whether or not the Treasury is going to refill their checking account. So they've been drawing it down. It was about 750 billion at the start of the year. Now it's about 360 odd billion. And as the government cannot issue debt on a net basis right now, the Treasury needs to draw down this account so that it can, fund the various agencies. But once that debt ceiling is resolved, and it will be resolved, then the question is, does the Treasury say, okay, I need to issue a bunch more bonds, suck liquidity out of the system, and raise my balance back up to, say, 700 or 800 billion? We don't know. We'll find out in early May when the quarterly refunding announcement comes out from the Treasury about what their target is for their cash balances. So I think, April's going to be a lot of uncertainty. There's max tariff hysteria, people freaking out. There's going to be this global recession, change in the monetary order, all those sorts of things. So I think it's going to be very choppy, a choppy to down month. Obviously, I hope the 76,500 holds. I think it will, but I think we're going to come close to testing that. Absolutely. I mean, look at what happened in 2021. We went from about 6,000 to 69,000 in 3 months, right? So, sorry. What was it in the summer? Whatever. I think we went up like 5 or 10x in a very short period of time in 2021 when that COVID stimulus really just kicked in and went turbo on the markets. So imagine this, that Trump and the Republicans have an election to win in 2026. And so they need to start making things look really, really good for the economy coming into the year end. And so I think that they're trying to front load the pain now, maximum pain now, so the voters don't really remember how much things sucked in April, May, June, but in December, when all of their representatives are starting to canvass and saying, hey, vote for me in 2026, now things have to look rosy. Oh, I've fixed the economy. The trade is more balanced, blah, blah, blah. All these banking regulations that Besson is talking about removing have been removed. And so the money is going to start gushing. And obviously, you're going to have a response from the rest of the world to their populaces saying, I'm going to protect you from America. Let's print some more money and bring prosperity here.